22 and table 30-6 updated to reflect the accepted list approved by the commission tonight, and then a notation be placed. So I think we're gonna leave the palm trees in the list with a notation that the palms have been removed because of lethal bronzing.
Our understanding with those, what we got from this motion was that we're gonna remove the palm trees that were identified during the meeting out of the list, put them down in a notation, but also have a notation explaining why they're down there.
Right.
Okay, all right, so we're good to send it to the city council then, right?
The consultant's putting out all that together,
Okay.
and we should receive that soon so they can go ahead and formalize it into an ordinance and advertise it again before the process that we go before planning and zoning and then city council.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else? Anybody have anything else to do with the minutes? Okay, so the motion was made by member Perez, seconded by member Myjack with changes to address number 6 in Article 9. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the minutes have been approved. All right, we're moving on to petitions and requests from the public. These are non-agenda items. Does anybody wish to speak? Mr. Johnston.
Does it have a hand out there?
Stan Johnston, I'm a professional engineer, and I'm speaking about something that I sent you on March the 5th. March the 5th, it's titled, part of the title says that Titusville outrageously dishonest by denial and cover up a massive sewage spill November 2022 into 9 city streets, as proved by photos, many witnesses, and photographs show. So I sent this to over 130 people, and it further goes on and talks about the public presentations, photographs, videos, numerous warning notices going across the road. This was in red, and this is going across the road. And I think Bill recognized that because he was with me when I went through the streets there. You know, but this went on City Hall, police station, and courthouse, over a dozen churches and so forth. There was three separate times I had warning notices, and this is one of them. It was in red, posted on some houses and so forth. And so what I'm here, if I were to title this presentation, I would call this admission of dishonesty. I would call it admission of dishonesty. What it is this is an attachment to a letter sent by Sean Stauffer. That's what you have here. And this attachment is from me to Jim Waymer, Sean Stauffer, Laura Lee, Kate, Bill, Dan, and about 130 other people. So this email, if you notice at the top there, it shows videos, images, and so forth. Like those were the. In other words, this inclusive it had videos, photos, and so forth of the sewage puddled in Greenwood Street, 1180 Greenwood Street, and coming out of the manholes in the City of Titusville. Well, so what this is about is this letter that I just described to you that you have is included with this letter. It's not an email. It's a letter from Mr. Stauffer. And Mr. Stauffer says right here, he signs this, and he says that the spill never happened. This spill was in September, October, and a good bit of November. Puddle at 1180 Greenwood Street, and the city of Titusville could not find that puddle, even though I sent them a picture of it. Even though it was on the front page of the Florida Today, even though it was on another article in the Florida Today. So this is the dishonesty that's happening. And this is a dishonest letter by Mr. Stauffer, Director of Water Resources. Also, I sent you this, I believe I sent this to you the last meeting, and I was requesting that, it says, is anyone in City Council going to acknowledge this sewage bill? I gave this to them last time also. This is at least the fourth time I presented to council. Is anyone in City Council going to acknowledge the sewage bill September through November coming out of manholes, well, 1180 Greenwood Street into 9 city streets as witnessed by me and Laura Lee Thompson, that's Ms. Thompson here, the person who turned off the alarm and red flashing light at the lift station, photos, videotape of sewage flowing out of manholes, many witnesses photographed on the front page before today. So that's what I brought to your attention last time I was here, last meeting. And of course, you didn't receive it very, didn't approve of it, go to the City Council again. And I don't know what I can say, but it's your decision whether you want to go with injustice and dishonesty. It seems like that's what you guys do. I can't imagine. I just think that this is like communist country or something. We don't speak against what the rulers say. We just keep our mouths shut, and that's what I think you want me to do. And that's part of what I'm going to do, because my health can't handle it much more. So I'll let y'all think about it, and I'm looking forward. I'd like to see the restoration of the Indian River Lagoon, but I don't think it'll ever happen. Thank you.
Good evening, members. Kristen Lartigue, Cocoa resident, and Brevard Care Citizens Coalition, where local elections matter. I haven't been able to visit with you for a bit, and I'm very grateful to be here tonight. And I'm going to see what I can fit into my allotted time. I have prepared for the meeting, and these are a couple of requests that I'd like to make of the commission. First of all, I'd like to say that it is inconvenient for the public to not have the TEC meetings all recorded. There's an item on the agenda tonight that has some controversy in it, and it's occurring in a non-recorded meeting, and I am recording it. So I'm now doing what I was doing last year, which is I'm still trucking up my stuff, my equipment, in order to record your meetings, and I don't believe that that's acceptable. I did do some research on how this happened, because I did not follow exactly when it happened, and it happened at the October 10th meeting, where the city manager, Larice, presented this under his reports at the very end of a 3.5-hour meeting. And he did not recognize you guys for having requested it. He offered a revenue. He said he gave 3 options, and he said that these are funding, resource neutral options and can be implemented with current staffing levels. He did not present an option to the city council members of, well, what would it cost to have someone here and to have all of our meetings continuously recorded, as the public is interested in these meetings. So what I would like to do is to request that the TEC do a motion that states the following. Requesting a motion that city council be requested to revisit their authorization for recorded TEC meetings, and that city council be requested to live stream and video record 100% of the monthly TEC meetings. That's my first request. The next thing is I want to go back to our performance measures. So if you all recall, we were hot into the performance measures for a little brief spell last year, and that ended up getting pulled in between meetings when we were going to go into them deeper. So I have received and requested and have available the performance measures for FY24, where City Manager Larice did make some changing around of a few of his measures. And at the end of the day, I feel like I heavily weighed into this as except for the new member, you're aware, I really weighed into this last year. We put together a proposal, citizens got involved, recommended that you guys weigh in on it, and we were shot down. That's just the math, we were shot down. The city manager was not interested in having the TEC talk about this particular item. So here's my request this year. What if the TEC invited the city manager to come and give a presentation on the environmental measures that are in his performance measures? And let's invite him to the table. So he can now provide us with his ideas. And with just updating, because he has changed some things. There was 55 last year, there are 68 this year. He could speak to these, he could have staff speak to these. He could provide us, he could allow questions and answers, and let us continue pressing for a real discussion with the city manager's department. If he doesn't want you to directly weigh in, then let's try this a different way. Second motion. The second motion is to request that to the TEC to make of the city council. It's a motion that city council be requested to request city manager Scott Lorice to provide an agenda item at a TEC meeting to review the city's FY 2024 performance measures and targets that pertain to and or affect the TEC's purview, and to respond to questions regarding same. I believe in constructive, productive citizenry and making reasonable requests. I feel that both of these requests are reasonable. And I mean, I personally have gone through and I've done my first sort out of kind of what's changed because some things have shifted around. But I really think that wouldn't it be beneficial for the community to hear directly from the city manager? And my third item that I want to petition about is to go back for a moment to when Chairman Thompson provided the 1999 plan for the commission. The 1999, and made a comment last year and said, you know what? Nothing much has changed. And so my question is what is the TEC's plan? If we can't weigh in on the city manager's goals directly, and Mr. Parrish last year said, why don't you guys come up with your own plan? And my question is what if the TEC elected to update the 1999 plan? Because some of those measures are still relevant today, and it could be updated into a new plan. It would require some thought and someone to do some analysis on it, but it is a start. I always like to start with a template. Why start from scratch? So those are the three requests I have. I'm going to give copies of my motions, the two motions to the chair and secretary, and I appreciate your consideration of my petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lori. Anybody else? Anybody else want to speak on your petitions and requests? Okay. Ms. Jackson.
Hi, my name is Katie Delaney. I'm a candidate for County Commission District 1. And I'm just here tonight because I've watched a few of your meetings and I've really become very interested in what you guys are doing here. And you know, I really appreciate the meaningful conversations you guys have and the things that you bring up to your board, or your council, I should say. So for tonight, I'm just really interested in your public participation agenda item, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here tonight. And I just want to thank you all for your volunteer efforts. We need more people to be as involved as you guys are. Thank you.
Thanks, thank you. And I meant Delaney, not Jackson. Sorry.
That's okay.
All right, anybody else want to speak? Okay, so member Young has showed up. So he is now here. Alternate member Young.
Yeah, I'm here now.
We see you. Hello.
Happy to
Okay, so moving on to old business. You have a copy of the TEC's powers and duties in your agenda packets. So as there, I guess we need to go through it and see whether there's anything that anybody wants to change or have questions about. I'll open the floor for comments or suggestions.
Yeah, I got a few. Starting with section B2. To review and make recommendations to the planning, zoning, and that's my first thing, where we can remove 2 and incorporate it into something under 5, since environmental sustainability is part of 5, and 2 is just a small piece of it. So that's number 1. Talk about it, or make a motion, or whatever you
Well,
want to do.
I see a couple of lights, so let's do the lights first, memory out.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just don't remember how this got on the agenda. Is this just something we do periodically, or?
Well, I called for it
Okay.
months ago because there was an issue that we'll get into here with the tree board. But first, I wanted to get these little
Gotcha.
ones
Thank you.
out of the way.
Yeah, and it was an agenda item, but we never got to it because the meeting had stretched out and got long, so we kicked the can down the road, and now it's here to stomp
Here
on.
it is.
So, Mr. Parrish, how do you feel about moving number 2 as maybe,
Incorporating a comprehensive plan under section 5.
under section 5,
D5.
as an example of, of environmental sustainability actions? Does it need to stand on its own, or can it be incorporated under number 5?
It looks like it could be incorporated under 5, so it could be added as a Roman numeral 4, I guess is what you're suggesting, maybe?
Well, basically cutting rule 2, B2, and incorporate comprehensive plan under 5 is like maybe 5, 4. Yeah, IV. 4 I's or IV or whatever you, yeah, choose your.
We can figure it out.
Okay, so
Those Romans.
that was the first one. There's also a conflict between 4 and 6. 4 says that we're to review environmental water resource issues as selected by staff. And 6 says to establish, as a tree city, it will be the responsibility of us, of the tree board, then to study, investigate, counsel, develop, and update annually, and administer a plan for the care, preservation, pruning, planting, replanting, removal, and so forth. No, that was not the one I wanted to read. I wanted to read 7. It says 7 says the commission may conduct public hearings to implement duties specified above. Where was it? I found it. Oh, I forgot that. No, I've confused myself. Let's skip that. Let's just go on to,
Are these changes on paper anywhere, or?
this is, no, I'm just going off of the document here. I just highlighted the ones that I had written out at home, because we're doing it electronically. We're to make recommendations on the environment and provide recommendations on the adoption, prioritization, and implementation of initiatives, actions, policies, and programs to support and promote all aspects of environmental sustainability. I point that out because that's what the Native Landscape Trust Fund that we're gonna talk about later is all about. It's this activity here. And 6 says that we, as the Tree City USA, we act as the tree board, and that we shall be responsible for the tree board to study, investigate, counsel, develop, and update annually and administer a plan for the care, preservation, pruning, planting, replanting, removal, and disposition of trees and shrubs and parks along trees, and in all other public areas. It said shall. Now, we don't have a budget. And that again gets back to the Native Landscape Trust Fund, because it may be able to provide a way that we can see, this to me reads like an urban forest. This is what this is describing, what Tree City USA says we shall do. And I think if we really set ourselves forward to building that urban forest, then what we're gonna talk about later may be able to provide the means to have a full-time forester, and maybe eventually a whole parks department, where we could create a park that's our urban forest.
Wouldn't that be the stuff of dreams?
Now, that would be something that we would then communicate with back and forth with the forester. There would be some budget allowed, and there would be, this is a whole nother policy shift, but this is what Tree City USA is requesting of us. And this is not what we're being permitted to do in Titusville. So something here is broken. We either need to change this rule and not follow Tree City USA leadership and remove ourselves, or implement it properly and completely.
Amen.
And so when we proposed an urban forest plan, that came from the tree board. And it was city staff that decided to take that urban forest plan, and instead go out and hire a consultant. Now, it's our responsibility, it's stated in our job description. So again, this is something that's broken that we need to see fixed. So I don't know how we're gonna fix it. I've proposed partly, later on when we get into the need of landscape trust fund. But this is very clearly that we have specific responsibilities to do and to administer. And we don't have support from city staff to execute this. We don't have a budget to execute this. And if we don't have a budget and the staff support to execute this, then I would make a motion that we remove ourselves from Tree City USA. I don't want to remove ourselves from Tree City USA, but I don't see an alternative because I find this to be untenable. We're telling them we have the resources and we're applying them. So what do you guys want to do? Do you want to be a tree board? And if so, where do you think we should go?
Unanimous list. Thank you. I agree with you. I don't know how in good consciousness we can call ourselves a tree city when everything that we have proposed in attempts to doing our duties regarding it have been told no right away. I mean, we are not a tree city. We are unabashedly a tree city in name only. And look at all the clear cutting we're still doing. Even our tree ordinance is still blatantly ignored with all the building that's going on, and they're just clear cutting everything, and everybody is fine with that. I feel shame, and I think that unless we can do something, we need to loudly make a very public announcement that we are falsely claiming tree city status and falsely accepting, notation about it. We're lying, and we should feel shame. So, I'm agreeing with you. So if you were to make that motion, I would second.
And there's still lights, so remember, yeah.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't want to remove this. What if the thing that seems to me that we don't do here is administer. A lot of this other stuff we do, there's only a few criteria to be a tree city. I was just looking them up here again, just for kicks. And they say training a tree board, having a community tree ordinance, spending $2 per capita on urban forestry, and celebrating Arbor Day. Those are the 4 things you have to do. $2. $2.
You have to.
We're not doing that.
Well, it might be because, well, I think the thing that we do here, that's on here that we don't do is administer. I would suggest that rather than getting rid of this, we simply remove the term administer and stick with studying, investigating, counseling, developing, and updating annually, because we don't administer and we have no capability of administering.
I don't see where we have the capability. Excuse me. How do we have the capability of doing any of the other things on there? Jim? How do we have any capability of doing these other things? Removal of trees, planting, trees and shrubs and parks. I mean, we're not doing any of that either.
No, we don't,
Well,
but
it's
this
more than
doesn't say
just-
that we do it, it says that we plan, develop a plan to do it.
Right, but this pretty much came right from Tree City USA. This is what they recommend that your tree board do. So you're saying to Tree City USA that, well, we don't really wanna do that, or all of that, we'll just do some of it.
Yeah.
So we're part of the Tree City, part of the Tree City.
I don't know, based on what I just read, it's fine, but I would say that the thing we're not doing here is administer, I would not wanna take this out.
Maybe we should
Or maybe
change,
we should just try to do it.
or maybe change the language to 6 to match what you just said, which we're coming pretty close to. I think that, you know, when you look at Mike's, suggested plan, it's exactly what number I under section 5 suggests, recommending incentives for residents, businesses, developers, and organizations to practice environmental conservation and sustainable building practices. That's exactly what Mike's new plan does, so maybe we can table or postpone talking about number 6 until we get to into the agenda for Mike's new plan. But I think, you know, this has bothered me too, is that this language is in our powers and duties, and we are basically helpless to be able to follow this directive. So what would probably be better off to remove all of the language that's in number 6 and just put the 4 things that member Yap just said is in the tree board directives, because there's no way that we can do any of this. And then, but, you know, so there's a thing that's in our powers and duties that we absolutely, it's impossible for us to be able to do. But if you go up and look at number 8, goals and objectives, the Titusville Environmental Water Resources Commission shall study general environmental conditions in and surrounding the city of Titusville and make specific recommendations to the city council regarding the environmental effects of existing conditions, future public and private development projects, subjects of particular environmental water resources concern, and issues regarding environmental sustainability in order to improve information available to the city council in their decision-making role. How many times have we suggested to the city council that they look at what Mr. Johnston talks about every single meeting? I mean, we do these things and we get ignored. We never get to review any kind of public or private development projects, so why is that language even in there? And when we look at subjects of particular concern, we get ignored. So I mean, all the way starting at the very beginning of our powers and duties, we're kind of very ineffective. And it's very frustrating to me, and I don't know how to change it. I mean, we can keep making recommendations, and we can keep getting ignored. But it's kind of frustrating to have this language and have that be stated that that's what we're supposed to be doing, yet we're not. When have we ever looked at a site plan? What would have happened if Brookshire had that site plan come to the TEC?
Rockets would.
Yeah, so since we're not privy to looking at site plans, I don't know why that language is even in there.
Well, I was gonna suggest that I make 2 motions. One, to move the comprehensive plan into 5 sub 4 from 2, and then table the remainder of the discussion till the next meeting. That's what I was gonna propose, if that's acceptable. Then
Is there a second for discussion?
not.
Okay, okay. All right. I see that there's now a card.
There's more than one.
several cards.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
we keep talking about the same thing over and over again. So, maybe a proposal to consider is to write down all the things that we're not doing, all the things that we're not able to do. And just go to council and say, guess what? These are the things that are in our duties, but these are the things we cannot do. These are the things that you don't allow to do. These are the things that you budget. And let's put it out there. And let's put it on TV so that everybody sees what's going on. For once and for all, let's just have a Pearl Harbor Day. Okay, and it may be radical, but the thing is that moving the pegs around is not gonna fix it. Okay, we need to come to some agreement among ourselves that yes, we don't do these things, and yes, we have tried to send stuff that is beyond reproach. It's time tag, for God's sake. How can you argue against a time tag movie in today's environment? Okay, and they still do, and they have. So, again, maybe I'm just letting it out, but we can move the pegs. And it's, the pegs are still not gonna fit, no matter what, because there's certain things we cannot do, there's certain things, so let's just tell them, say, we're not gonna do this. Guess what? This is out. We're not gonna support this. Why? Because you do this. This is not what this is meant to be, because we don't get the data from you. And let's put it out there, and maybe we can have an adult discussion. Or maybe they can say, go away. Okay, and that's fine too. And that's fine too.
They may tell us
It's
to go
always
to
their
that
choice
place.
to do that. We are volunteers.
So, I don't suggest that we do that tonight. I mean, if, I have no problem doing that. But I think that we should have like, just next meeting, just say, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go through this document and we're gonna make a list of what we want to see brought in front of the city council, and then, but then what if we make this list and we spend the time making the list, and then the staff just says, oh, we don't think this should go to the city council, what happens then? Because there's a possibility that could happen too.
Do they have that?
As a citizen, I will go and read those things to the city council, not as a member of this board, but as a citizen from Titusville. Okay, it just gets to a point where we're being cornered into a position that we're not relevant.
No.
We're not relevant. And so, to me, all of us, I think, we spend a lot of time trying to get this done right. And maybe the time has come to have a conversation. So, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, and, I agree with what Mike said, what Laurie said. Well, you said, you essentially said the same thing in various ways, okay? And, what if, we didn't have a TEC? I mean, we don't get to do anything anyway.
All right, so before we take a vote, let's hear the cards, let's hear what the public says.
Stan Johnston.
You're getting called, Jan, Stan, you go.
Did you call me?
Yes.
Oh.
You always call
somebody else first.
Stan Johnson, I've had a lot of heartache about what's going on. For example, we have so many environmental problems here, and there's even been times that this monthly meeting has been canceled. Right, nothing on the agenda and so forth. So, and I agree with someone said something about adult discussion. Mr. Majak, I'm somewhat confused about, let me see, you correct me if I'm wrong, you have two motions here.
I was proposing, we haven't got a motion on the table.
Oh, well then I can't talk until you have a motion.
No, sir, you're speaking before we make the motion.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, before you,
seemed like I heard the motion, and okay, I think you're gonna motion is number one is move this, this environmental sustainability to another place in the, and the other one was maybe Tree City will be tabled issues to be tabled. I don't know what's gonna happen, but, that's what I thought it was gonna be maybe two motions, so.
Do you have a comment to make on this subject?
Yes, I do, absolutely.
Please, let's,
Absolutely. Okay, on environmental sustainability, I want to go with saying, I agree with everything you said about that, Mike. And there's 3 points I want to make. And one is the trees. Very good point about that. And number 2 is the sustainability of that the city has published a Resilient Titusville. I think it's 2020 or something like that. And I made a complaint against that, against 2 people who prepared it in the city. And it was revised to include an addendum, which was an affidavit that I had filed. And so the city is not sustainable. The Indian River is not sustainable. I mean, it's pretty obvious that we have serious problems with sustainability, big time. And that should be highlighted or something, or it's put in the proper place in your powers and duties.
we have a secret weapon.
Pardon? Thank you, Mike.
We have an Abigail.
Okay. Now, and also, I'm going to mention about our estuary. Our estuary is a nursery. The Indian River is a nursery, and it's dead. Nothing can be birthed there. I mean, I remember when I came in '71, we had seahorses and brittle stars, you know, the darkest brittle stars, and we had pipefish and
sandy shorelines.
So it's sad, and I must confess to you, I don't believe it can ever be restored. Restored to its what the diversity it has had. It's not a nursery at all. It's a dead zone. It's a dead zone for anybody who wants to use it. Any animal that wants to use it as a nursery. It's a dead zone. Maybe not for algae, but for everything else. So you've got serious problems, and thank you, Mike, for bringing this to the attention. And I'm for what you said. Is there anything else you want me to say? God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for your work.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next part.
Kristen Roby.
Good evening, Kristen Marti, Cocoa Concerned resident. And so on this item, I really didn't know what to expect because, you know, we talked about this a little bit last year with the charter responsibilities, and I've quoted from myself. I thought it was great when it was brought up at a meeting. And I made some notes on what's just been talked about so far, that this is very, very interesting to me because we're taking stock of what's really happening in this room. We are really acknowledging this. So I want to commend that, and I want to name that. We're acknowledging what's happening. What I heard was Member Mike said, something here is broken that needs to be fixed. We don't have support from city staff. We don't have a budget to do this. Member Fliss said, we need to make noise, make a public announcement that we are falsely claiming Tree City status. Wow. Member Thompson said we get ignored when we reach out to City Council. So I'm just helping to echo the naming of this first. And it's a fair comment to say, why have Tree City status if we're not really doing it, right? I mean, we need to be mindful of that. So as I'm listening to this, I know that's not what we want, and we don't want to accept being made impotent for this body. So what can we do? Because this is a really powerful statement. We don't want to disempower ourselves, you know, of what's in here. So even if we don't do it, we don't want to disempower ourselves. So if we don't want to disempower ourselves, then what do we want to do? And I want to tie in a few little moments that I was participating last year, but I would say, continue making the motions. You make the motions. Don't have it on your watch that you didn't make the motions at the meeting, even if they disappear. Make the motions. insist that it's in your semi-annual report. I caught things last year, we're not in the semi-annual report. Make sure to check that carefully, because your motions need to go into the report.
Amen.
Beware of city obstructionism. Remember the meeting minutes, January meeting minutes last year? You guys all voted unanimously to video record and live stream the meetings. The city refused to correct their meeting minutes when they wrote down audio. They refused, and you guys were copied on the scuffle there in the attempt. And then I just said, well, then let's just do a new one. So you guys accommodated that. Thank you. You did a new one. You still didn't get acknowledged because the city manager then just said it was a city council priority. Go for it. If you can get us 100% recorded meetings, whoever wants to take credit, go right in. Go right in front of the camera and take all your credit. However it happens. But the ways that you guys can do is you can make sure the meeting minutes are accurate, make sure that you're recorded in the semi-annual report accurately. I love the idea of the city council attending the meeting, the Pearl Harbor Day. There's a possibility of requesting a workshop from city council. There's a possibility of requesting city council attend a TEC meeting and explain it to you why we can't get things done here. So there's still a lot of things on the menu. That's what I really want to say is that you guys have a lot of choices on the menu. When items disappear, my items disappeared. I petitioned last year heavily on the video recorded meetings and on the performance measures and took enough initiative to compile the citizen participation and the citizen proposal to you guys that then got disappeared. When items disappear, you guys can re-present at the next meeting and make sure it goes into the minutes, right? This is all, you know, you're just making sure your minutes are accurate and that this conversation is accurately recorded. These are all ways to push back on the obstructionism. Let's just call it. It's obstructionism. Somebody doesn't want something to happen here, and somebody doesn't want you guys to be productive and constructive. So you still have ways that you can, and I study this, I'm a geek about this. This isn't the only meeting I go to, as I'm sure most of you know. I study ways that citizens can be useful and productive and to keep that eye on the conversation and how we move that dial. I want this to be a Tree City USA. I'm willing to go to meetings as I'm available, as it's made aware of whenever that day is, when the citizens go forward, when you guys put in a request to city, whatever it is. When it gets on my radar, I help let people know about it. I've already let people know about the item that I'm contesting at tonight's meeting on Facebook. I'm quite chipper, right? I'm a little chatterbox. So help me have something to amplify out into the community that demonstrates your good works and your insistence, your persistence and your insistence that something shifts the dial, however long it takes, whichever strategy works, because it's going to be a number of things that will actually change. But I support this conversation, support where you guys are headed, and I hope you'll be mindful of my suggestions of what to be aware of and how you can maintain power despite feeling powerless. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Delaney?
Thank you so much. I wasn't going to speak on any agenda items tonight, just because I wanted to watch, but this conversation was just too good. And I want to thank Mr. Delgado for your words, because you literally said exactly what I was thinking. Sure. And I know that the city of Titusville loves being a tree city, or loves the idea of being a tree city. I mean, that's the whole thing about the city of Titusville, right? We meant space with nature. That's, you know, that's the whole thing. As a previous speaker mentioned, with making the motions over and over again, even though it feels like it's a failure sometimes, I'm sure, it's so important, not only for y'all because of the hard work that you do, but for the public to see a group of citizens standing up saying, no, this is our city council. It's a city by the people. And this is what we want, and we're gonna keep asking for it until you give it to us, or until election season comes around. And also it just helps the public know that they maybe have a city council that doesn't really care too much about what the citizens think or want. And what's their whole role? To serve the public. And I'm just here to encourage you guys, don't discount yourselves, because a lot of us probably stand on the opposite sides of the aisle, but I can tell you, I am in agreement with almost everything that you guys are doing, and it's only gonna help our community the more we start caring about our nature. I mean, the work you've done with stormwater, the work you've done with the lagoon, and trying to get native plants back into the ground here in North Brevard, I mean, it'll make a huge difference. So I just encourage you all, just keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, I guess, I have a few things I wanna say, I guess this is a good time. I don't want it to, you know, seem like we are bashing the city council and that we're bashing the city of Titusville, because, you know, I sit on a lot of committees and I see a lot of what's going on in other parts of the county, and I know for a fact, you know, I've seen it at the Save Our Indian River Lagoon, Citizens Oversight Committee meetings. The city of Titusville has applied for and received more grant money from the Sorrel, citizens of, you know, the Save Our Indian River Lagoon half-penny sales tax. The city of Titusville has applied for more projects and received more money than any other municipality in the county. We have more baffle boxes than any other municipality in the county. We've had, at the city council meeting last night, I saw where some of the American Rescue money hadn't been spent yet. It got shifted to stormwater, almost $500,000, and they're gonna build 5 more baffle boxes. That's incredible. I don't know of any other city in the county that is doing as much as the city of Titusville. Now, I will also say that because of our geographic location, 65 miles from the closest inlet, with 7 causeways in between us and Sebastian Inlet, we have to do more than all the other cities, and we're doing that. But we can do more, and we can be better, and I think the leadership from this body, it is gonna be important in ensuring that the city of Titusville continues to do more than all the other cities and counties. We're also ahead of almost everybody else, except for the Kennedy Space Center, in surpassing where we should be in our Basin Management Action Plan goals for reducing nutrients going into the Indian River. It's fantastic what the city is doing, but it can do more, and we have to do more, because we have been, you call it a blessing or a curse, we own the northern end of the Indian River by ourselves while we share it with the Space Center, and we have to keep an eye on what's going on out there with all the growth and all the craziness that's going on out there, because it is affecting our city. It's driving development here, and so we have to keep an eye on what's going on over there. I mean, again, it's a blessing that we have that huge economic engine across the river from us. We just have to make sure that it remains a blessing and doesn't become a curse, as far as affecting our quality of life. So I think that, you know, the work that this body does, it's important. We have done some good things, but we need to keep on trying. But I do think, I like Member Delgado's idea of dissecting our powers and duties and bringing it to the city council and calling into question some of the things that we're not happy with. Are there any more? I see a light. Member Yap?
Yes, I may not be at the May meeting because of my work schedule,
Okay.
but I just wanted, and so if you table agenda item 6, I would just like to put in a word here that I think what you said would be good. I don't know where all this language came from about pruning and planting and removal, but again, I've checked with the Arbor Day Foundation, and they give 4 standards for tree sitting. Maintaining a tree board, okay. Having a community tree ordinance, $2 per capita, I don't know how much we spend on urban forestry, that would have to be looked at. And celebrating Arbor Day. But the $2 is not really our problem. We could do the other three, or look into the other three. So I would suggest that all the language in 6 simply be replaced with those 4 things. And we spent the next year trying to accomplish that.
So, remember, yeah, in further up, down in that website, is there a definition, from the Arbor Society? Is there a delineation by them of what the tree board is supposed to do? I mean, those 4 goals are responsible for, you know, what we need to do to be designated as a tree city. But if you go further into the website, are the roles of the tree board defined?
You know, this is mostly like, gee, look how cool we are. It's a lot of pictures. I'd have to deep dive to find that. But they just say those are the overarching things that need to be done. And I'm sure we tried to possibly over-define it. If we don't feel like we're doing this, we could still be a tree board. We could still try to establish as a tree city without taking all of this stuff, all of these details on ourselves, and see if we can do that over the next year.
Yeah, now regarding the $2 per capita, it is being spent by the city's public works department, but it's mostly being used to remove trees and trim trees, but very little is being, almost none is being used to plant trees.
With monuments. With monuments, the city enhancement, you, when you come in.
Well, this
That's
is
what the money
gruesome.
went.
This is gruesome, but it doesn't say spend $2 per capita on planting trees. It says on urban forestry. So
Yeah.
civically speaking, that I suppose could
100%
could
construction.
involve
Yes.
removing or
Right.
pruning or
That's-
leaning or whatever.
Putting poison
That's
on.
awful. But anyway, if this gets tabled, I just wanted I think that would be a good backing away to a more achievable task without removing the entire idea.
I agree, and are you out for the rest of the summer, starting?
Yeah,
next
starting,
week?
this will be my last meeting till
Okay,
fall.
all right, thank you. Remember my debt?
I'll make a motion to table to the next meeting.
I'll second that.
All right, and it's, a motion was made by member Myjack and seconded by member Fliss to table the, powers and duties discussion to the next meeting, and I suggest that we make that the only agenda item at our next meeting, so that we can spend the entire meeting talking about that. So I would add a friendly amendment to your motion to make it the only agenda item at the next meeting.
Oh, no, wouldn't do that.
No?
No, there's a lot to talk about, and I don't think that's gonna be the only thing.
Okay, all right. Well, but, is there any more discussion before we have a vote? Lori, your light is on. You're okay? All right. All right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to bringing this to the next meeting? No, okay, the motion carries. All right, so. All right, moving on down. That's the only old business. Now we're moving into new business, the TEC bylaw amendment. So review the proposed bylaw amendment and recommend that the item be added to the May TEC meeting for adoption, consistent with the process outlined in Article 15, amendment of the TEC bylaws. So, anybody want to start? Brianna?
Yeah, I proposed this motion, but before I give the justification for it, I just wanted to question what was in the agenda under new business, why this vote has to wait until May. I contacted the city regarding the protocol for changing bylaws, and I heard from Abigail Trout. And this was in January, and it was recommended to vote to add the topic to the March TEC meeting at the February TEC meeting. Well, I didn't do it till March. But then it said, then we can proceed with amending the bylaws at the March meeting. So I'm a little confused, since we added this to the agenda in March and voted to add it to tonight, why can't we vote on it tonight?
I don't have a good answer for you other than say that, I guess procedurally what it means is the last time you had your meeting, you decided you want to talk about it, so you put it on the agenda. And then at the next meeting, what you do is you discuss what you want to amend. And then you take that to your next meeting for a final vote. That's what it seems like it says here. It says that in Article 15 says amendment to these bylaws must be presented for discussion in writing at one meeting and voted upon at the next meeting. So we, based on your discussion from your last meeting, we went ahead and made a suggestion of what we thought was going to be discussed, what was presented, and why this was even asked for. So we went ahead and put in a strike-through underlined version of your bylaws in the agenda. It sounds like when I'm reading here, if you agree to that, you can make a vote on it, and then enter. I'm sorry. It has to be presented tonight, so you have it here tonight, and then at your next meeting, it would have to be voted on according to these bylaws.
Okay, yeah, I'm not contesting, I was just confused as to why it seems to take 3 meetings when that's not the impression I got from the city earlier. But, you know, no big deal.
Well, from the city staff.
Yeah, Abigail Trout?
Well, she's here to answer the question, so go ahead. Abigail, if you understood this one.
Do you want to see the email? Just refresh yourself. Hey, I'm not calling anybody out here, I'm just, okay.
No,
This
it's
is
okay.
just-
If I made a mistake, I would wanna know.
That was just my understanding, that I was to bring it up for discussion in February and then vote in March. Well, I waited a month, so it seems like since I brought it up in March, we'd be able to vote in April.
Yeah, so I
That's-
still put those in your bylaws as a future agenda item.
So you discussed, so yeah, so what you did in March was you decided, the first step there, the first bullet, proposed the amending the bylaws. In other words, you're asking for it to be on the agenda for discussion, because it wasn't on your agenda initially. So now it's on your agenda, now you're discussing what do you want to do. So now it's on your agenda, now you have.
acceptable.
You're just, you're
Oh,
talking.
I'm good, either way, I just wanted to be
Yeah.
clear, yeah, I'm not, I got no reason to fight it.
If you want to amend this process, you can certainly do that.
Oh, yeah, let's do that.
That's another meeting. That's September when you get back. Yes, we'll table it until September. You get back.
Well, I trust in May you'll do the right thing, but I'll just let you, my background for making the motion. I've been on this committee for over 20 years, 23, I don't even know anymore. And for most of that time, we did not have this agenda arrangement. This was only put on a couple of years ago. And I voted against it. I didn't think it would be a great idea. And I think it ought to be taken away. I think it was a noble experiment, but we've been sitting at meetings where we have become so diverted by wonderful comments from the public, and then ended up in deep discussions about stuff. And we always kind of had a policy years ago that if you were going to discuss something at a meeting at any kind of length, it had to be in the agenda. And so that's why petitions were at the end. So members of the public could come and sit and say, hey, you guys really ought to do something about X, and then we would put it on the agenda for next time, and then it would appear on the website, and everybody would know about it, and then we could come. But I've been at meetings now where we've spent an hour and 15 minutes not conducting our business. And this committee has always been, like when I started on it, we would sit around, we would design bike paths. We would plan community events. We actually did things. And I think a lot of our time has been diverted from that by getting distracted early on in the meeting. All of the same attention to public comment could be made at the end of the meeting and then placed on the agenda for next time, like we did for 20 years, and it worked just fine. And that's why I would propose simply shifting back to the way the agenda was when we got a lot more done. Because this committee only meets 2 hours a month. Any time that's taken is time we don't get things done. And so I would like to go back to the way it was before. I think it was worth a try, but it would be great in a committee that met more frequently and had more time, but we really don't, and we have things we need to do, and I think that, if we want to get into a big discussion about something, then it should be on the agenda and planned, not an impromptu response. So that's why I'm proposing this. So in May, you can do with it as you will. I won't be here.
Thank you. Member Fliss?
Can you, if you've been here that long and this was not initially the way we did it, do you have an idea why we moved that to the beginning of the meeting?
That was my idea. And the reason was because people would come and they would, to speak, and they would sit in the audience and they would sit in the audience for sometimes a couple of hours before they had an opportunity to speak. And so that, I was the one that suggested it, and it was kind of an experiment. It's not turned out the way that I had envisioned, because so often the meeting gets hijacked by the commenters that are commenting at the beginning of the meeting, and then it's over an hour by the time we get to our real business, and we're all burned out and tired from addressing the petitions and requests. And so I would agree with Member Yao that it was a nice try, but it has seriously hampered our ability to get things done. And the Planning and Zoning Board, they have a petitions and requests, and it's at the end of the meeting, just like Member Yao said. So I think that it worked for 20 years, and the committee seemed to get a lot more done than we've been getting done. So I'm okay with going back to the old way and trying it and see if we can maybe get more done. But that's my opinion. If somebody wants to speak, you know, they can wait until, and they don't want to sit in the audience for a couple hours waiting on us. They can come in at, I don't know, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock. I mean, theoretically, our meetings are supposed to last 2 hours, which is, they're supposed to be ending at 7:30, and we're not getting out of here till 9 o'clock most of the time. So they can come in at 6:45, and then they wouldn't have to wait as long. But the way that it has turned out, it has caused our committee to not be as productive as it was in the past.
I have to admit, being a little exhausted sometimes before we get to the agenda. Yeah.
Would there be a possibility of maybe not addressing the issues that are presented early on? In other words, handling them more like we would at the end, as Beyond suggested that we were doing. In other words, they bring it up and it gets placed on an agenda for further discussion if it's important enough, rather than being, as you said, hijacked into a long discussion. And the reason I say that is because sometimes people bring something up that has to do with something that, you know, is important, we need to know about it, but yet, you know, hanging around until the meeting ends, you know, it's not something that everybody's prepared to do. They work, have kids, family, and whatnot.
Well, just a note on that, yeah, we are just as culpable. We are an easily distracted bunch of guys. People came in and gave their 5 minutes, and we said, thank you, we'll consider it for an agenda item, and then move on. And instead there's questions and more questions, and everyone wants to talk, and, you know, we're just hopeless at that, I'm afraid. Which is, you know.
Yeah, but we did it tonight. Yeah. Yay for us and yay for the audience. Nobody cornered us and made us answer any questions. Yeah. we'll see how the discussion goes next month. But we did do good tonight, we didn't, yeah, you're right, it is, because a lot of the stuff that gets brought up under petitions and requests is so important, and it's hard to ignore, it's hard to just say, thank you for your 5 minutes.
Good cards.
Also, when, like, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what your name is.
Kristen?
Yes, when the point that Kristen brought up, for example, were very good. If we got to hear them at the end of the meeting, we would remember to consider whether we put them on an agenda item. And that might be easier for us also. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but we could be taking notes also, and Kristen was kind enough also to put her two, requests on a piece of paper and handing it to me, which is very good.
Well,
because
I
I
was
have
using that
very
as an example.
poor memory.
I was using that as an example of being able to maintain focus if we move them to the end of the meeting, is what I meant by that. Are we ready to wait?
Yeah, I'd just like to reflect a moment. The first items that were addressed by Kristen and Katie, I found those to be really, for me, very appropriate. It gave me some balance where, like Mr. Johnson here, he comes up, it's obvious he's very frustrated. Guess what? Just like we are, okay? And they brought some balance to this for me, because I've been very frustrated. I mean, I'm very frustrated, okay? And that was at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is
And it was
special
very
circumstance.
poignant and brief, 5 minutes and that was it.
All right, we're not voting on this right now anyway, so unless anybody else has any further discussion, are there any cards on this before we
Yes.
close it? Thank you.
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, as you know, I've been on the, when they had people to be nominated for this board, I've been on every time to be on the board. So I've been very interested in this environment. In fact, as I was before becoming an engineer, my major in college was marine biology. I dropped that to become a civil engineer, like my dad's an engineer. So what I see is that it appears to me as somewhat as the reaction to putting it at the end was to somewhat silence me, because that's what other people don't like, P&Z. And when you talk about diverted and hijacked, is that just about every time I've been speaking to you is about being diverted and hijacked by City Council. Do you understand that? And it's continuing. And as far as the hours and so forth, long discussions up here for petitions and requests, as far as I'm concerned, none of them come from me. None of them. All of them, as far as I know, was plants, native plants and trees. Almost all of them. At least 90% of them. And at all those times, is that you guys had the ability to say, listen, we'll do such and such and such later. So it appears to me is that these, what you call diversions and hijacked, from my point of view, that was what you did. I've stopped going to some P&Z meetings because I don't want to make 3 or 4 hours until I speak. Other people do the same thing here. They don't wait till 7:30. They're going to try to find come in later. So I believe you're going to limit discussion. There's only 3 people here today. Not a very big audience. So I'm for keeping petitions and requests near the beginning of the meeting. As far as I know, that's what kind of commissioner does. That's what P&Z used to do, and that's what generally it's done that way. And because when somebody has just a something small, which that's what it is sometimes. So as far as I'm concerned, I have not been, and by the way, when I spoke today, I didn't use 5 minutes. I used less than 5 minutes. I sat down.
Second time.
Pardon?
Second time.
The second time what?
The first time you used the full 5 minutes.
I did not.
Yes, you did.
And that was, didn't I leave before the bell rang?
Yeah, like two or three seconds.
Okay, all right, see.
That was okay.
I did, in other words, but I didn't ask for more time, I left. As far as I'm, so as far as I'm concerned, I didn't. No, the truthfully is, I did leave, and I'm gonna leave before my 5 minutes is up again, too. So, and I didn't ask you any questions. Pardon? Okay, God bless you, buddy. Okay, so, I'm for, and I believe it would be helpful to everybody involved to keep the petitions and requests at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Next card.
Question 14.
Oh, wait, we have a member like.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a statement. No response is necessary. But, you know, Stan, you know, you come up and you presented 3 times today. Usually you present 3 times. And there are times when we have taken a lot of time to discuss the issues you brought forward because they were important issues to us, okay? And not to say that they're not important when we don't take the time, but we've heard them many times. So, if you get up here 3 times and you just speak for 5 minutes, that's 15 minutes out of our allotted time. And if everybody did the same thing, you can imagine why they're frustrated for other reasons, okay? So I'm just sort of tossing the ball back. Yeah, we may not be maybe running the ship as well as we should, but, you know, it takes everybody.
Thank you.
Kristen Marti, Cocoa resident, and an advocate of public participation in Brevard County. So I'm one of these people that goes around to the meetings and evaluates the policy and how hospitable and helpful it is to the public. So I've been very interested in this item. I did see the recorded meeting last month, and I saw Member Yap's recommendation to put this on the agenda for this month. And I want to bring up some talking points about how I feel about it. And he said that it takes too much time away from the meeting agenda and the meeting minutes, and then he expanded on that and how it used to be in the 23 years, and I appreciated that commentary. So I also liked hearing where the origination was and that it was specifically to address, you know, people at the beginning of the meeting. Well, just last night I was at the county commission meeting, and I was a very active participant at the county commission meeting. And they have restructured their public participation policy just last year, where the public may only speak at the end of the meeting. And I was deprived of hearing from several members of the public who were not able to spend 3+ hours at a meeting. They had to leave. I was deprived of what they had to say, and they were talking about one of the most important topics in this county, which is Speak Up Brevard, which is a public input program countywide. And they were not able to participate. And I have spent quite a bit of time extensively weighing in on that matter. And so you guys are considering going from being one of the more inclusive meetings in Brevard County. Just by this change, you will go to one of the least inclusive meetings in Brevard County, because that's what our commissioners do. They want public comment at the end. So that's very concerning to me. My opinion is that I've heard about the meetings going different directions, and I have seen that they get distracted, but to me, it's a call to action to organize the meetings to be on top of the commentary. You saw tonight, we did it, right? We can do this. We can make sure that we do this staggered meeting and have do this in the right, like the city council does it. Come on, guys, the city council of Titusville City Council. Every meeting has petitions and requests at the beginning of the meeting. They have a second offer at the end of the meeting. They get through it. Mr. Johnston, he participates regularly, as everybody knows, in that meeting. We all get through it. So I'm just very opposed to this. And I also wanted to present options for the organization piece of it. I'm going to call your attention to the city manager and one of his latest performance measures, because he's updated his performance measures this year. He has taken off 8 public workshops that he had last year. which I was very curious and eager to attend, and he's now removed them from the effective governance section. He has instead put in encourage board member attendance at training opportunities into his new metrics. Who knows which boards he's thinking of? He hasn't explained that to me, but nonetheless, here it is, DEB 5.4. So, my opinion is that for you to stay one of the more inclusive boards in Brevard, that you keep this, and then you use the talking points of the concerns that the meetings are going, that we're having this, in order to everybody step up our own game here. And I brought in an example, which is Robert's Rules of Orders, because I heard this on the radio, I think it was Bill Mick. Somehow I got led to this article, a recent article in the Florida Today. Every year in 2023, the Robert's Rules of Order, there's an organization that actually focuses on Robert's Rules of Order. So on April 27th at 10:30 a.m., there is a meeting in Satellite Beach on the Robert's Rules of Order. I have this from Florida Today, it's easy to look up. But that is where I think the opportunity lies, is having well-organized meetings, just as Member Paris said. When I'm able to come in here and plant my ideas and land those ideas, I'm actually able to better hear whatever you guys are talking about, and be able to get my first pass at saying, here's my participation in this meeting. I can be more present for the rest of the things that you have going on. So my hope is that you don't change it. I mean, changing bylaws is a really big deal. Just on the last item and on this item, let's try harder, let's be more concise, and then about getting a lot of things done. One of your complaints is we're not able to get things done anyway because of this issue with the things not going through. So I just think that there's opportunities this year to work on those without punishing the public, without making us have to wait through a potentially couple-hour meeting, just simply to make a public comment and get ourselves on the map. So that's my advocacy. I also like to remind everyone that on March 30th at 5 p.m. in this very room is the City Council's workshop for their priorities. And Member Delgado had some ideas from earlier about making sure that we get on the City Council's priority list. 5 p.m. right here in this room. April, thank you. Remember, please, April 30th, 5 p.m. Let's get on the map.
Thank you.
Katie Delaney.
Good job.
Thank you all again. So this is the whole reason why I came up here tonight, because of the proposed changes of the public participation process. This is something that I'm very passionate about. I've been a community advocate for many years now, and this is something that I advocate for all over the county. I believe that the more involved we have our citizens, the better our government is. And so the more time that our citizens get to participate in these government meetings, the more people feel ownership of their community as well, I believe. As Ms. Lortie was talking about earlier, last night there was a county commission meeting, and because they changed their public comment policy, there were many people, including myself, who had to leave. And I was very disappointed about that, because I had really prepared, and I believe in the Speak Up Brevard program, and I was, unfortunately our elected officials aren't the most communicative. And so a lot of times, our only opportunity to let our voices be heard, not even that we need a response, but just simply to let our voices be heard, is to get up at the podium and tell them what we think and how we feel. And it's extremely helpful for people, like it's been said multiple times, for people who can't stay the whole night. And I thank Mr. Perez for making that suggestion, because that's exactly what I was going to say. Maybe the resolution to this is to just like, if things are spoken about that you guys agree with, they can just be written down and then put on an agenda for another time. But I hope you guys reconsider this. Thank you.
All right, are there any more member comments before we move on to the next agenda item? It's being moved, there's no action tonight. It gets moved, it's being presented tonight and vote on it next meeting.
Oh, that's what I was doing.
Unless you want to rewrite it, then we do it all over.
Okay, so now we're on new business AB, 8B. 8B, you're up, Mike. So I see, is there a handout here for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't pass it down, that's why, okay. Because this is different than what's in our packet.
It's different, it's what Jim insisted I make up a white page or one page summary, so I tried to put it all in.
Okay.
I didn't insist, I suggested, Professor.
It's a good educational tool.
I took the advice.
So there's some things I've learned in the last month, but in general, this is just a summary of what I provided in bulletin form before. I wasn't trying to make anything different. One of the issues that kept coming back to me was how we would acquire funds, and I understand that funds that are collected for impact fees have a specific use. We can't just use them for anything. However, if the city were to have a parks department, there is an impact fee that could be charged for a parks department, which can help support the staff of, say, a forester full-time to run the system. And here's a set of example job descriptions of what, here, I just passed them that. So these are some things that a forester would do if we had our own urban forest program. Something else to consider. But essentially, the Native Landscape Trust Fund, in a nutshell, proposes providing money into a mitigation bank for the destruction of the native plants and trees due to development. And utilize that money in a way that's beneficial for the city to grow back the native urban forest. And not just for the procurement of trees or planting of trees, but for their management and maintenance as well. It takes more than just planting trees in the ground to grow a forest. And it takes more than just trees. It takes the understory to work with it. And so the way that I envision this working is that in addition to what we do as far as managing this, we also work with those organizations in our city that want to help contribute to growing a native forest. And I can tell you that there are people that are interested in our local garden club, and the Titusville Garden Club, and the tree farm. There are people that are interested in Friends of the Enchanted Forest and our local native plant society. They would be just tickled to be able to go out and put in native plants around trees along our city streets and things. But what we don't have is we don't have a cooperative arrangement or agreement with citizens working with the city, cooperating and helping to beautify our city in the future. So this fund provides a mechanism, a means with which to acquire some funding, use that funding to basically pay for the development of LID, paying the developer back this mitigation fee or a portion of it. And I originally proposed a 50% buyback if they use LID in their development. We can come up with different numbers or different recommendations, but this is just what I had in mind. I also thought that we could give back up to 30% if they used 80% or more native Brevard County native plants and trees. That gives them 20% for landscaping and for lawns and turfs and things that are non-native. But if they did 50% from LID, and they got 80% from using Brevard natives, then they would recoup 80% of that impact. Or not an impact fee, a mitigation fee. The remaining 20% of that mitigation fee then goes to fund and fuel the idea of regrowing and reforesting our city, an urban forest, and an urban forest management program with an urban forester as directed by Tree City USA. And then that forester and that budget would come before us periodically for review to ensure that monies are being spent appropriately and overseen by this commission. So that's the gist of it. What we're trying to do is to mitigate the loss of native habitats, and these should contribute to urban forest development, I think. So essentially, yes, we are losing native habitat, and those native habitats should have value. And I think the more value that habitat is based on its biodiversity, the type of endangered or threatened species that live in that habitat, plus soil type, we can come up with a set of metrics that will allow us to do an appropriate job. I mean, a place that's being redeveloped doesn't have that big of an impact. But when it's native virgin land, scrub, we're talking tens of hundreds of acres, that's a huge impact to both our wildlife and our biodiversity and our water resources. So that's the gist of the proposal. Please open it up for discussion.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I think though, since we're not the only people that are going to be deciding this, is that there should be a full text to detail all the little things that you said just now that aren't in what you have put down on paper. Because I think it provides the depth and the color that, you know, I think that sells this. And we are going to have to sell it beyond ourselves.
Thank you. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a wonderful idea. Now, what would you like us to do with this? Where would you like this to go?
Where are you thinking?
Well, policy should be read, right? So we need to make a recommendation to council.
Correct. The last meeting, this idea was brought up, and so that's why it was continued, so you can have further discussion about it. What we stated was that you're making a policy recommendation to the city council. You're asking them to agree to this effort and to dedicate staff time to researching it and coming up with answers or developing it, whatever that might be.
Thank you.
So that's what you're specifically asking as a recommending body to city council to consider this.
Thank you.
So we're doing number A on your powers and duties.
Yeah.
Good job, Michael. Great. Member Yap?
Yeah, I think this is really well written, Mike, and it's really nice. I think it's a great idea. I think we should go forward.
Member Coatesy?
So, on this, I know we have impact fees for new development, removing trees, but, and forgive my ignorance on this, do we have any fees for abandoned buildings or impervious that's been sitting there for years? So like the Grove Church, we all know I was there sitting 15 years unused. We have on Garden US 1, the pavement that's just sitting there unused. Is there something that we could do to impose impact fees on those to remove the impervious and return it to nature, or sell it and reuse it instead of just sitting there as land with impervious on it?
Very good question. I don't know how to answer that one. I think if we want to, and I think we should, I'm not saying this is done by any means. This was a straw man that I threw out last week and I wrote a little prose about, but yeah, I agree. I haven't really thought through all the different ways that we can't call it an impact fee though. We have to call it a mitigation fee, all right? Just because impact fee has a technical legal term associated with it. but this gives us some flexibility. And I think if we look at that, how we would want to go about fleshing this out, then maybe that's the thing to do, is to add it to the next meeting and
Yes.
add more to it. I'm putting this out as a starting point. I think it lays out a direction where I saw a presentation from Lake Wales where they had taken their city, which was almost barren in the center and growing out, and came back together again to design where these trees should be, if to leave the city the way it is. And they managed to reforest almost every block along every street. You know, there's a way to make that happen if we have the will and we're inspired to do so. And I think we got that in this direction, but we do need to flesh it out and make it a whole piece. So I like that suggestion. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, how we calculate that value will be interesting.
Member Delgado?
Yes, Mike, great work. And impervious is a problem, because that usually lies on private property. And that's where the rub is. But it's a good thought. It's like runoff. How do you deal with that? It's the same issue. But those are categories that will complement what I think this is trying to do. So, Brad, if you don't want, hey, got a question for you. Listen. Don't we collect
Welcome to the party.
During, when we approve zoning and the other commission, do we have not impact fees, but where is the money that is collected that has gone to the monuments and all that other stuff that is being built? Instead of going to the trees, $400,000 worth of construction that's gonna take place and has been reassigned to do with the welcome of two types of stuff and all of that. Where's the money coming from? Isn't that a $2? Isn't there some kind of money that is set aside?
Which money are you referring to exactly?
Well, the tree mitigation money, that, that money gets collected.
Sure, so the developer that is unable to plant what is required will have the option to contribute into a landscape trust fund that we currently have. And my understanding is that money is used for plantings in other parts of the city. So that, and I think right now, which has been brought up before you already, and City Council recently, is that the good portion of that is going to be dedicated to the gateway project that Public Works is working on.
Exactly. Those are not trees, that's concrete. But anyway, so the city, the city has, yes, on their beautification, the city has moved those funds. So the thing is, if that's the case, that this is a revenue stream, and as such, it could probably go the same way, unless there is some handshake somewhere that says Plant City gets that stream of money. Because otherwise, this stream of money, like the other stream of money that you just described, can be diverted. Right?
I'm not sure what handshake you're referring to.
Well, City Council can say, I want this money for beautification versus planting trees, which they did. We know that.
The City Council can utilize the funds as stipulated in the resolution that was established, that was adopted to establish that fund, that tree mitigation fund we currently have. So it really depends on what the fund stipulations state and how we can use that fund at this point. So right now they have the flexibility to use it for landscape beautification in parts of the city.
They are. I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around how do we close that so that we don't go.
This would be a very specific.
Right.
We do, and we indicate that this native landscape trust fund supersedes and subsumes the landscape trust fund. And we shall say where the monies will go. We're
the idea, are we getting sidetracked on something, or this is how
This is the subject.
Okay.
This is good.
Because,
Thank you, Sheldon.
thank you. With regards to the impermeable, private property thing, aren't there laws that protect the environment even on private property? Like a private property business cannot empty a tank of spent oil into the ground because it's, right, I mean, so don't those same kind of laws, can't they be seen to do the same thing like runoff? When you have an impermeable surface, the ground can't be run off, can't those owners be punished, not punished, but fined for something like that? If not, why not? Why are we not considering changing, if we have to, the city ordinance to better preserve the environment in those places so that we can have even a bigger stream of funds for this reforestation project? Something to think about, maybe?
Well, I think when you're talking about private property, when the private property owner was conducting business at that site, he wasn't being punished, you know, for having
Shouldn't have.
impervious,
But when it's an abandoned or a piece that's not being taken care of, doesn't the idea that it endangers something, doesn't that come into place somewhere? It should.
no, that would be a policy that would have to be written into the comp plan.
Yeah.
So that, again, so now we're back to suggesting policy, which is what this board is supposed to do.
Which is what we're supposed to do, yeah. So we can put that in Mr. Jack's great plan that he has. We can put that in the direction, in some of the discussion of the direction of what we have to do to get it. I'm just trying to cross some T's.
May I propose you propose some words, a paragraph perhaps?
Right now?
Or, well, no, not this instant, but we can, we can table this.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
And
table
bring
it.
it back again.
I'll see if I can come up with something, I'll do some
What's your
research.
homework?
and come up with something.
What's your homework?
I have a homework assignment.
In fact, it would probably behoove all of us to think about ways that we would identify property. How would we go and identify a mitigation fee? You know, what are the things, what are the impacts that we're seeing in our city that aren't impacts, but that we would want to mitigate for? And for me, first and foremost, was the loss of the forest is tremendous. There's replacing hundreds of trees in a few blocks is not gonna make up for the forest. So it has to be something more than just the trees themselves.
Right.
We used to take a mitigation fee from all trees 6 inches in diameter at breast height 4.5 feet and larger. That got dropped back to 20 inches on the tree protection ordinance, so it really wasn't much of a protection.
No.
Greatly reduced the amount of the impact into the mitigation fund. And somehow we need to turn that back around so that we're recovering enough to be able to continue to grow the city without it dying underneath us, because we'll have nothing but concrete sidewalk and streets.
And this is important that this is only for business or public property, it's not for like residents.
That's correct.
Right.
Residences and personal property would be an option. And I would think later on down the road that we would find a way where you own that property, there's a right of way for the road, but you still maintain that land. Maybe we can work together with the city, can plant a tree, and we can start growing boulevard trees on private property. But to do that, we have to have agreement with property owners, and we haven't begun that process at all.
But that's also something to consider.
Yes, absolutely. And that's, I think what it's going to take is gonna take us working with private property, with commercial property owners and so forth, to be able to grow the urban forest that we designed, that we want to have.
And something else just out of the nowhere, but I think it is sort of related. I'm gonna use an example of these ancient trees that are on my block. And it's a person's residence, and a woman got hoodwinked by some business guy, and she's elderly, and she's gonna have to move, and she had to sell a place, and that guy came in and told her that that oak tree that 4 people couldn't span it is coming down, and the 2 in our backyard, we're freaking, because the laws that protected the heritage trees, DeSantis got rid of them in 2019. They're no longer, if we have any kind of heritage tree preservation programs, it's not because there are state laws anymore, by the way. Doesn't that frustrate you? We have to think of a way to go around
What they
that.
used to call a specimen tree, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Member Cozy?
So where I got the idea from was from a city in Ohio called Medina, where they do this. So I'd have to look into it deeper for how long they have before this happens. But if it's a business or an impervious pavement related to a previous business who's zoned for that use, they have a certain amount of time before they need to sell or repurpose it. If they haven't done that, then they start to have fees that they have to pay to be able to keep that property in the existing conditions.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. It captures it on both sides then.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It gives them time.
Yeah, but it's not just a tax then, in a sense, on new development, it's not just a tax in a sense on new development with, native lands, it's a tax on old development that's been left ragged for periods and periods of time, abandoned, and that gives us some income into this as well, that's good.
Yeah, it does.
Member Perez.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna say something similar to that, so, the tiny piece. For properties that have been vacated, business properties, don't they have a similar, not similar, but a requirement that they have to pay certain fees in order to keep the property vacant, and if it's a business property? Isn't there some kind of policy that makes a requirement? So that you can't just abandon it and wait until 10, 20 years until there's a better day and sell your property and.
We're talking about specifically commercial properties, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, there's certainly commercial properties that are owned and maintained by a property owner, but they don't necessarily have a business occupying the space. So that happens, yes, in the city, and so you'll have a property owner, as long as they're maintaining it, that's what the goal of the city's code will, and the code enforcement will make sure is it's being enforced, is that the property is safe and maintained. But there's no requirement that it actually has to be occupied by a particular business.
But if it's not maintained.
That would be a code enforcement issue. And so they'll have, if they're not maintaining it, then they'll go through their process and potentially go before the code board, or the code magistrate rather.
Okay.
But that mostly just covers if they're keeping the grass mowed and the trees trimmed and safety hazards. It has nothing to do with maintaining an impervious surface.
Well, the
to
surface is, the surface is not being maintained, the site is not being functioning according to an approved site plan, and that's a code enforcement issue. So yes, that's part of maintenance, making sure. Whether there's an actual business in there occupying and utilizing the property as it was originally approved, that's a different story. The only uses can be approved, you don't occupy that space per the zoning that will allow. But when it's already constructed and the business moves out later, as long as that site is being maintained according to the approved site plan, then that's what we have, that's what, they're okay. Is that, Mr. Young, do you have, I don't know, do you have a comment for the rest of the commission because of the sidebar conversation can't happen?
Anybody else?
All right, so you guys got a lot of homework to do, because coming back at the next meeting, we have the Native Landscape Trust Fund, the powers and duties of the TEC, and the discussion and vote on the petitions and requests. Yeah, it is, so.
This is May 8th, right?
The next meeting, something like that, yeah. That's what we have.
It's the second Wednesday.
Yes, after the first Tuesday, so no, it's not the 8th.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we did one after because the first, yeah, there's a rule.
First Wednesday after the first Tuesday, or second Wednesday after.
Yeah, something
Right.
like that. Your next
So,
meeting,
oh, so it's the
15th.
So is there any more, you know, go ahead.
Yeah, it almost sounded like we were wrapping up.
Well, I was gonna ask you, is there more that you'd like to go for?
Okay. I just want to circle back to, a motion that I believe we should make, and that's, to request, that the TEC meetings, be live streamed and recorded 100% of the month of our meetings.
Well, I mean, he can make that motion if he wants to,
I just wanted to know before.
or does it have? Can he make a motion, since we've already done this a bunch of times, can he make another motion that the, TEC meetings all be recorded, you know, and televised? Or does that have to be on the agenda so that the public knows about it and it could be at the next meeting?
I would recommend that so that the public can have an opportunity to make comment on the decision that you're gonna make.
Okay, thank you.
There would be discussion of that, board, so you have notes, basically, on your agenda that this is gonna be talked about.
So do we need a motion to move this to the next meeting?
Well, let's wait until we get it to the new business, or the next meeting agenda thing. Otherwise, we're gonna have
What are we
this
gonna do with the
next.
native plant trust fund, not 8B, what's the disposition?
I thought that that's coming back at the next meeting.
Because we're moving it to, we're tabling it to the next meeting, right? So
Right.
we need that motion.
Okay, well, you wanna make that motion then?
Can I make that motion that we table it to the June meeting? Cause I'm gonna be with my mom who's having a procedure next month on the 15th. Can I make the, can we table that to the June meeting?
I may not be here for June, but I'll try. I'll,
That's right, you're gonna be gone all
if,
summer.
can I zoom in to the meeting?
No.
Can we make a motion to introduce it into the next meeting for discussion?
Yeah, but I won't be here.
You don't have to make the final vote. Okay. I would like this to be unanimous, whatever we come up with.
Yeah.
So I want everybody's.
Let's make a motion that it be tabled to next month's meeting.
Okay, I'll second for discussion.
All right, any discussion?
I'm sorry, what's being tabled? The
8B, till next meeting.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Not
last
the
meeting.
television part.
No, okay. Before we make the motions. It's in the application.
Yep.
All right, so the motion was made, that we table the discussion about the, Native Plant Trust Fund,
Native landscape.
or Native Landscape Trust Fund. The motion was made by Member Fliss, seconded by Member Myjack. All those, and to be, tabled until the next meeting, to be on May the 15th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion was unanimous. All right, so,
What I would suggest though is that maybe if you have comments or snippets you'd like to incorporate, if you send them to Brad can then forward them to everybody, and then I can compile them together in a single thing and bring it to the next meeting.
Thank you.
okay, so the TEC bylaw amendment, that's automatically getting sent to the next meeting. We don't need a motion on that, correct?
This is the first.
Yes,
Yes, we need a motion?
no, that's going, because your
Okay.
bylaws state.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
Well, I guess to be clean, Robert's rules, maybe you do need to make a motion to accept it, what is being proposed, and then for your bylaws, that probably goes to your next meeting.
All right, does somebody wanna make a motion?
I make a
will
motion.
Okay, seconded.
All right, so who made the motion? Member Fliss made the motion. Member Young or Myjack? Who-
Vice Chairman.
Vice Chairman Myjack seconded it, that we vote, review and vote on the TEC bylaw amendment at the May 15th meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. All right, so, well,
petitions and requests from the public, number 9.
Petitions and requests, and then reports, because I have a report too, so.
Okay, but let's get all the motions done first.
Okay, to request of,
Turn your mic on, please.
oh, sorry. That city council be requested to live stream and video record 100% of our TEC meetings.
I'll second.
The motion was made by Member Perez and seconded by Member Majak to, recommend to the city council again that all of the TEC meetings be recorded. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait, it's going on next meeting agenda, I'm sorry.
You skipped your thing. 9 is petitions and requests.
We're not there yet, okay? Hold your horses.
You skipped
We're
it.
just trying to work through the motions of what's going on in the next meeting.
Aren't they already?
That's item
recorded?
11.
Yeah, but not recorded, but televised. We want it televised. Video recording. That's where it gets messed up.
You don't find them
We
on
should say
YouTube.
televised. That's what happened before, I think. You said video recording and then all that got put in.
Ms. Thompson.
I said live stream and video record 100%.
Okay, all right. So that's going on, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, I just wanna make sure, so, rules of order, what you've got right now, you just finished a motion on tabling or approving the bylaw change to be heard and decided on at your next meeting, that's item 8A. You also approved a motion for 9B, which to table that to the next meeting. Then your next order of work is the petitions and requests. It's later on after that, after reports, then you have discussion of future items where you talk about what you want to put onto your agenda. So I think the item about the recommendation you want to make to city council on, now you probably want to make a motion to have that put onto your next meeting so you can discuss it and then make a recommendation that's formal to city council.
Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on to petitions and requests from the public present. And it can't be about anything that was on the agenda items.
Good evening, Kristen Marti, Cocoa resident. And I'd like to mention that I have a few wrap-up comments here. And one of them is both of the times that you guys voted to live stream and video record the meetings, the vote was taken immediately. So you just took it at the meeting, all you're doing is making a request to city council. So I'd like to remind you of how that happened last year, because now you put it on as an agenda item. And one, it's not any contested item by any member of the public. This is only contested by the city. So there's no contesting, it's not a controversial item. And then everybody has to come back here and say it again at the next meeting. So I'd just like to remind you that both times you did it without staff protest, that you were able to do it immediately and send it forward for that item. The next thing I wanted to mention is that when I mentioned about the plan earlier, the Titusville Environmental Commission Plan, this is dated February 12th, 1997. I found my copy, and anyone is perfectly able to take a photocopy of mine if you want to take a picture of it. And Chairman Morley has the original. So, and I am interested in taking a photo of Member Majak's attachments from the meeting. On the April 30th, even though I briefly mentioned it before, I want to make sure that I explain to everyone why this is so important. The April 30th at 5 p.m. meeting is a non-video live streamed meeting. Take that all in for a moment. I will be recording it. I've already been through this now. I've been following the city long enough that we know what they do. They have, all the important people of the city are here, except for most of the members of the public, and the video recording and the video recording and the live streaming. So it is an important meeting. They're going to talk about their priorities. They're going to talk about the community survey that they've just done, in which the city manager's office canceled the community conversation this year. So it's a big deal, and it's under-publicized. So I encourage everyone to go there, and then guess where the public comments go? At the very end of the meeting. And And so we went through this last year. So what happened was that I wanted to talk, I had done thorough analysis of the performance measures and wanted to speak on them. And I was silenced, I was muted, because I couldn't talk until the end of the meeting. So you guys are considering that for this meeting. I just want to let you know that that can be problematic. But if you were trying to put ideas in front of City Council, there's a meeting before that on April 23rd, where members of the public could request that the meeting be video, because there is a technician here at that meeting that just doesn't video record it. So you can make requests to the council, talk about any priorities that matter to the City Council, you get to speak at the beginning of the meeting at a City Council meeting, but the request could be made that at that April 30th workshop, that the public be allowed to speak at the beginning of the meeting. That would change the whole workshop, just as Member Perez talked about earlier this time. It would change the whole workshop because they're then getting public input at the beginning. My opinion is it should be at the beginning and the end, because when I enter the workshop, and this is a very short workshop, by the way, this is like less than an hour and a half, and I think it should really be longer, but if I'm able to speak at the beginning of the meeting, I'm able to bring what I came to the meeting with. And then at the end of the meeting, when it's open for public comment, then it allows people to say what this meeting was like for them. So I think that should be petitioned to City Council. I tried to request it at the meeting last year. I also requested that members of the public be given 5 minutes. It's a priorities meeting. This is the priorities for the whole city of Titusville. This is totally underreported. I tell everyone about it. I'm telling you about it. And I think it's a strategic opportunity to participate. So I want to put that out there and make sure that it's landed, make sure that on the 23rd, people think about their suggestions. If you're going to the City Council meeting, you're going to speak under petitions and requests, it's an excellent opportunity to make an advance request, because you may not be able to speak until the end of the workshop, and you can find out how much fun that is. So I'm hoping that, I've already spoken on this item here, but I want to get ahead of this April 30th, because I think it's so important. And by the way, I think this was a really good meeting. I think you guys had a really good meeting. I thought we had balance in it, members from the public talking, you guys staying on track. I benefited from it. I'm glad to be here. I haven't been here in a while, and I appreciate everyone's efforts, including staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time tonight again. I wanted to speak about a meeting that I went to a couple weeks ago. It was the Titusville Tomorrow / Storyville meeting that Mr. Parrish was so gracious to have with the public. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it here tonight is because the way that the proposed development looked like there could be some concerns environmentally. Lots of concrete. The way that the development was basically road, sidewalk, and then home. And there was a little strip for trees. And so stormwater is an issue with that. And so I'm sure that you guys would have a lot of ideas about this. So I would love to see this talked about in the TEC. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's it for the petitions and requests. So now it's time for reports. And I know Brad has some things he wanted to talk about. Go ahead, Brad.
Well, we can do it this way. So other reports, it's an opportunity for the chair and the other members to individually make reports. So that is an opportunity to do that before or after staff makes its report. I also want to point out that could be the opportunity where other motions could be made. So for example, Mr. Perez has a particular motion he'd like to bring up. Under his report, he can bring this discussion up. Everyone would have an opportunity to discuss it, and then a motion potentially can be made. So that might be an opportunity to make a motion without having to wait to put something on the agenda for the next meeting. So I just pointed out to you how you'd like to do this. We can go ahead and do our staff report, but then there is an opportunity for chair and the other members to make reports too.
So let me make sure I understand that. It's okay for one of the members of this board, under their report, to bring up something that is not on the agenda and have it be voted on?
That can happen sometimes. So you can, generally the best way to do it is to have, as I recommended before, where you vote on asking having a particular topic, especially who's gonna have a lot of discussion involved, on your agenda so people have notice that it's to be discussed. There are opportunities where you have reports, a member will ask the other members about a particular item that they are interested in and like to have some action on, some direction on if possible. And if everybody's in concurrence with that, that is possible. There is an opportunity that you can make a motion on that. Generally, you do that on things that are probably gonna be very minor, things that are very simple. But again, if it's gonna be a complicated discussion, I would recommend adding it to a regular meeting so you can have it notice and have a general discussion about it.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay, so, we're on the reports on the agenda, and, staff report is first.
So I'll keep it brief like I've been doing the past couple of times. So I just want you to know that we have not forgot about the Urban and Community Forestry Grant Program. It still hasn't opened up yet. We are patiently waiting. I'm on the distribution list for when the grant opens up, so my eyes are on it. Also, just so you know, the Natural Resources Public Engagement Project, there should have been an email that went out into your inbox about the interview sessions. So if you haven't responded to that survey, please do so. You'll have an allotted time slot that you can choose from. Do you remember the date that was decided? I think it was April 18th.
18th. Thursday.
Right. So the interview sessions, there are time slots open for that day for you to select if you haven't done that already. We have some proposed dates for the workshop. We're looking at potentially doing that on June 12th. That will be your June meeting. It'll follow the regular TEC meeting. So more information on that will get out to you as it gets finalized, but for now, just be aware of the interview sessions that will be taking place this month. And then in front of you, you should have two handouts. One for an Earth Day event that will be happening at Spaceview/Veterans Memorial Park. That'll be taking place on actual Earth Day, so that's Monday, April 22nd. This event will have an Earth Day proclamation given by the mayor that just went to City Council last night. In addition to that, we'll have some food trucks, and we've been lucky enough to coordinate with some of the local organizations here in Brevard County in Florida. So we'll have the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. They'll have an educational booth out there. We'll have IFAS Extension Office for Brevard County to talk about tree plantings, how to do maintenance and care for your trees. And that will be in conjunction with our 30 tree giveaway. So we'll have 15 silver buttonwoods and 15 sea grapes. They're 3-gallon size, so I know you may think that's pretty much a shrub, but I will have a pamphlet that talks about proper pruning so that it can become a tree. In addition to that, I believe we will have the Brevard Zoo's Restore Our Shores program present to talk about living shorelines and the Indian River Lagoon's health. And then we'll also have our Water Resources Department there to talk about water quality. So it's going to be a really nice event in the park from 11 to 2. The flyer should cover the bases, and I believe the event has been shared on social media, on the city's social media sites. So be on the lookout for that if you're interested in attending. And then also on the same week, April 26th, is National Arbor Day. So we will be giving a proclamation at Kirk Point Riverside Park at 11 in the morning and planting an 8-foot silver buttonwood at the park. So feel free to come out and hear the mayor read the proclamation and volunteer in the tree planting. In addition to that, just some other things that you should be aware of. Recently we had an application, a variance application 2 actually, came in for artificial turf that went to our Board of Adjustments and Appeals. According to our land development regulations in Chapter 30, Section 30.321, I believe it's Section F, it talks about how this material is prohibited, so staff wrote a recommendation of denial. However, it got approved. So I can't speak in full detail to these applications, so if you have questions, Brad will be here to answer them. But we just want you to be aware of these two applications that came through at Hollow Glen Drive. Staff wrote a recommendation of denial for both. Both were approved. So if you have any questions regarding that, please feel free to ask them now before I move on. Or we can wait till I'm done. I'll just continue staff report, I apologize, okay. Also, Public Works just recently at the P&Z meeting on April 3rd gave a presentation on utility capacity. So if you're interested in hearing that presentation, you can watch the recording. I also have the presentation. So if you would like that, a copy of that presentation, I will gladly provide that to you. Kevin Cook from Public Works, he gave the presentation, talked about well field capacity, water treatment plant capacity, key capacity indicators, and FDEP permitting, and more information on that. So if you're interested in that, go take a look at the P&Z meeting on April 3rd. And once again, you can reach out to me if you want the actual PowerPoint. And then also keep on your calendar for the April 23rd 5:30 presentation meeting before City Council. I will be giving an annual update of what we have done with the Sustainability Action Plan. So I'll talk about all the projects we have implemented since it was adopted and since I've been with the city. So that'll be about a 15 to 20 minute presentation, but it will go in depth over some of the things we have been doing here in community development. So if you have any questions about the staff report, please ask questions. We're here.
Member Plus, and then Member Mydell.
Actually, I was just gonna wonder if we need to have a few more minutes.
We don't have to do that anymore. We found out we never had to do it in the first place.
I was a bit surprised by the Earth Day presentation because at the last meeting, we talked about going to the Enchanted Forest. And we said the commission would like to have a table set up and have items to pass out, such as educational brochures. The members were volunteered to come set up, and I think we talked about who and when. Mr. Parrish said the staff would find out what is available to hand out and give an update on what's available. This did not end up on our agenda, and I don't understand why. We were talking about going to the Enchanted Forest like we used to do, setting that up and handing out trees and, you know, being part of the public. And when I went back to the board, I found out that the Enchanted Forest never received anything from the city, that we were even interested in this. So I don't know how we got from having it here discussed in the meeting last month, and now we're not even talking about going to the Enchanted Forest on Saturday.
I contacted Martha Pissarro today, and she stated that Shelby Wood will have the form for Titusville Environmental Commission. She shared my contact information with Shelby, and everything is good to go.
Right.
So they want us to come and have a table.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But the city, what are we gonna do, Brad?
Well, can we have some of the stuff that's gonna be handed out at Arbor Day? Can we have a little bit of that to be handed out at the Enchanted Forest on Saturday?
Yeah, we were under the impression that we were reorganizing that particular event with the Enchanted Forest Parade, but we did offer to bring everything together, so we have a lot of information, the box is ready for a member who can pick up and bring to that event. That's no problem.
So we need to organize among ourselves who's gonna pick up
Can we
what.
do that?
Are we allowed to do that without breaking the sunshine?
So we'll make a notice, we've already got that down, we're gonna publish a notice that he will be at that event, at that time, at the Enchanted Forest.
Coordinate before that event. Can we coordinate together before that event?
There's nothing wrong with members speaking of meeting with each other, as long as you're not talking about items that are on this agenda. But always be cognizant of the optics of doing that too.
Right.
So, I can't answer that question of whether you're allowed to get together to organize an event. But I just want to be aware of the fact that sunshine law, I'm not telling you you can't be in the same room or the same place together. Just understand what sunshine says is that you don't need to talk about things that could be on your agenda. And be cognizant of the fact that the optics of 2 or more members being in one place at one time. So in abundance of caution, we're just gonna go ahead and publish a notice. More than 2 members will be at this event at this time. we have the information, the materials available for a member to pick up. So you can bring to the event, and then you can set up there together.
And it's not on the agenda, so we can actually say, I'll meet you there, because it's not on the agenda.
We gotta figure out who's gonna pick up the stuff and at what time.
What time is it?
I think it runs from 10 to 3.
Yeah. On the 20th,
But we
right?
need to set up
On
by
the
10,
20th.
by 9.
Yeah.
So 8:30, we need to start.
On the 20th, yeah, that's when they're celebrating.
Yeah, Saturday.
On Saturday.
So who would like to come here and pick up, who's got a vehicle?
I have a truck, I can come pick up.
You wanna be there in the morning then? Let's do the morning.
Well, we have to pick it up on Friday.
Okay.
Staff's not.
Staff
I'll
not
meet
here
you-
on Saturday.
if you tell me what time, I'll meet you here to load and unload at the forest. If you tell me the time.
Well, I'll just pick it up on Friday, and, we just need to get to the forest, a half an hour, or.
9 o'clock.
About 8:30.
About 8:30, yeah. Okay,
It's open.
all right.
Good.
Okay, so we're gonna meet at the Enchanted Forest at 8:30.
How
To
many,
set
how
up
many
our
of these
table.
two?
Huh?
Both.
Who?
Yeah.
Whoever wants to come.
I'll do
I'll be
it.
there, I'll be there.
I'm coming.
Jim, are you gonna come?
Oh, yeah, but we used to kind of parcel it out, so people didn't have to be there all day, so.
Okay.
I'll come early in the morning.
It's a 10 to 3?
I think so.
Yeah, 10 to 3, so we'll be there at 9.
Okay, so I'll come and do.
And work the afternoon.
Yeah.
Pack up.
Be
Who's
there.
gonna-
Who will I
who's
give,
gonna
who will I
take it
give the
back?
stuff to?
I can take
You
it
wanna
back.
take it back afterwards? You're gonna
Yeah,
stay all day?
I'll stay all day, I don't care.
Okay, so I'll be in about midway through.
All right.
Okay.
Just spell whoever.
You guys do.
Do we have a table?
You want morning or afternoon? Okay.
I don't know. She said we did.
Okay, then we do. We gotta bring chairs.
You gotta bring chairs to sit on.
Gotta bring chairs.
Okay.
Although I haven't been there, I know the chairs are.
I'll make sure Martha says it.
Martha, but you know what, I know it too. You can make sure I said.
We can walk.
Yeah.
Make one.
I was just asking of Abigail if we can get it advertised the way some of this was advertised.
The Earth Day event
Okay, pardon?
at Enchanted Forest.
Yeah, similar, I don't know, if it was on the website or if it's on Facebook or whatever.
Is the Enchanted Forest organizing and
Yes.
holding the event and announcing?
They are.
Yes.
So so you're asking if we can take their announcement and distribute it?
No.
Just say,
Say
just
that we
say
are going to be there.
TEC at the Enchanted Forest Park.
How do you
Microphone.
want us to announce that and distribute it?
How do we usually do it? I mean, is it
About like that.
on Facebook or
Except
what?
that for.
You want us to add it to Facebook, to the city's Facebook?
You have your events, right, on Facebook?
We do.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you need to make a flyer, these are nice, but, just some kind of announcement, if you want to, for the public, if you want to meet your members of your environmental commission, come to the Enchanted Forest on Earth Day.
Yeah, man.
We could-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have, if you guys want me to bring them, I have a bunch of really beautiful, horseshoe crabs that are all, they don't stink anymore, they have polyurethane spray on
Cool.
them, and they're really nice, and I have some really outstanding posters I have one about seagrass and one about the importance of sandy beaches, and we can put them up on easels behind our table if you want me to bring them.
Bring them.
Okay, I will, thank you.
Woo-hoo.
This is the 20th.
On the
20th, yeah.
Okay. I thought it was the next week, all right.
It's gonna be much more fun now than we're gonna do.
Right.
The event just got accelerated.
It just did.
Okay, so, Ms. Trout, do you have anything else? I'm sorry, we got.
That's it for my stuff.
Okay, so I have a question about the artificial turf. Who approved it, the P&Z or the council?
Board of Adjustment Appeals.
And so that's done then, right? That from the Board of Adjustment, that does not go to the city council, their decisions, right?
Correct. It was a variance, that's how it was processed, individual to a particular property, and the Board of Adjustment considered it based on criteria and approved it, based on how they saw the criteria. And so it's only specific to that particular property. So it's not a blanket approval, I'm sorry?
Every decision is particular to a particular piece of property.
Well, what I guess I'm trying to get at is, it wasn't an approval to say that this is the new ordinance, or this is the new change, or a recommendation to City Council. It's a final decision on a particular deviation from the code for a particular project on a particular property.
I'd like to understand the criteria and how they came to that conclusion that that was an acceptable result.
We can share that criteria with the City Council, it's on the city's ordinance, or that with you, well, it's on the meeting code.
Next meeting?
We could,
So was there a precedent set that now anybody that wants artificial turf can come to the Board of Adjustment Appeals and they have to approve it?
last year, the first request in that same subdivision came to us, we recommended denial of it. Board of Adjustment Appeals at the time discussed it. They saw it as, I think they were interpreting the intent and purpose statements of the landscape code a little differently than how we saw it. We can certainly share with you the video so you can see how they came to their conclusion. And we'll share with you the criteria for the codes that we use and that the board is supposed to use in order to determine and evaluate each variance. And so you can judge for yourself just how staff presented it and how the board debated it and came to the conclusion. And then this year, just this last meeting, we had 2 additional requests in the same subdivision. I think because the applicant saw that there was a previous request was approved.
Right.
Of course.
But the issue with variances is that variances have to be reviewed based on the circumstances and issues that are particular about the property. So just because one applicant received approval doesn't necessarily mean the second one is supposed to get it. You're supposed to look at that particular property. But I guess they saw there was someone who was able to get in the door and get that approved, so these 2 additional requests came in. Each one was a little bit different. They weren't exactly alike. But the Board of Adjustment this last meeting had a little bit different take, a little bit different discussion, different from last year, so I can share that with you as well, but they used the same criteria and were able to approve these 2 against staff's recommendation.
Is artificial turf, is it pervious or impervious?
It depends. So the products that were proposed as part of this variance were pervious. Unfortunately, we don't have standards in the code that allows for this, so we don't even have any standards to really go. But in other words, it's not, since artificial turf or synthetic vegetation is prohibited, we don't specifically have standards in the code for materials or product or anything like that to account for allowing someone to be able to put that on their property. So with the variances that were submitted to us, we asked, because the next question was, will this, if it's impervious, is that now going to add to your impervious calculations to the property? Because the 3 cases that the Board of Adjustment has already dealt with were inside the area of concern. And in those cases, determined that the product that was provided to us was not going to trigger that maximum impervious standard for those lots inside the area of concern. So that wasn't an issue. So now the issue was strictly about whether synthetic vegetation should be allowed.
Can I ask you something? Is there an expected lifespan of this plastic grass?
Unfortunately, because the code does not even allow for this kind of product, we don't have criteria to even evaluate that.
You're not even allowed to ask that because, you know, with the sunlight in Florida, it's gonna last a couple years, it's gonna start breaking down and becoming microplastic, and if that's in a critical area, it's going to come into our drinking water, so maybe these issues should be addressed from an environmental factor, I mean a real environmental factor, not just how pretty this looks or how pretty it doesn't look, but from my drinking water, what I don't want to drink, that's worse than PFAS. And your drinking water, well, it is PFAS, but I mean it's bad. It's bad, it's not PFAS.
And the reason that they feel like they're compelled to do this is because their lot is on the area of critical concern, which is a sand pile, and it's very hard to keep regular grass looking good on that kind of a soil type, and so now everybody that's living on top of our area of critical concern is gonna wanna put in
It's gonna want to
plastic
drink
grass.
plastic, and I still wanna drink my water.
Put a native plants. It's just.
Yes.
Is there such a thing as impervious, astroturf?
Again, code does not have product, material, or criteria for us to be able to evaluate that,
It's
so.
still going to
Could
break
we
down
have
in the
one maybe
summer.
proposed?
I was just curious, since the word was used, I thought, is there such a thing? Not that that's relevant.
When they were initially submitted to us, those were our questions.
And where is it, this property? What part of Titusville?
The three variances were, approved for, it's the Sisson Meadows subdivision off of, Sisson Road.
Yeah, thank you, that's what I thought.
Former scrub.
Former scrub, like until recently beautiful pristine scrub.
Yeah, with gopher tortoises, according to Mr. Perry.
They all went running when they were playing it out, they all just went, because they didn't do those, things either, where they have to safely move them for $5,000 a turn, they didn't do it.
No, because they had been permitted 7 years earlier.
They just plowed it over and you could see the tortoises running.
Okay, so let's move on.
I got a question.
Hey,
We got
go ahead.
everybody, I'm sorry.
You got it. Yes.
On the subject of Inspire, I got the email that says TEC members will be contacted and all that, and then you mentioned that there was another email that went to select times, because I cannot find it. I
Yeah,
can find your
either.
first one, but I cannot find your second one.
What did you receive so far? I'm sorry.
What I received, I have it right here, we can look at it afterwards if you like.
Well, I also haven't received, the one you're referring to.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the consultants still work, sorry.
That was from today.
The consultant's still working on getting everything together, even as late as today with us, before this meeting we're discussing. So there will be an email that we sent out to you asking for dates. I think a couple of people have already confirmed, so that something was sent out, and I'm sure another one will be too. There's also gonna be a link to a website, a survey. So they're gonna try to do one-on-one in-depth interviews with each TEC member on the 18th. So we're really hoping that date works with everyone. We're blocking out that entire day, and we have a space in our office to do this.
That's why I asked, because I have not received that. And, it was said that, yeah, this thing's already scheduled and it's gonna happen on the 18th, I had no idea.
Yeah, we're telling you that right now, on the 18th. Yeah,
So
you
it's
should,
real
you haven't
time.
received an email, you will receive one very soon.
Okay, got it.
But then you said that there's gonna be a workshop following next month's TEC meeting?
Their tentative schedule is, an open house in May, we're not sure what date yet. They're tentatively scheduled to try to see if they can schedule a workshop with the TEC during one of your regular meetings in June.
Well, we only have one regular meeting a month,
sorry.
so it.
During your regular meeting in June.
Okay.
It might not,
So-
that's the month they're looking at, it might change to May or July, depending on the schedules. We're
Okay.
still working with them.
Okay, so we're not having a workshop after a TEC meeting, it will be the TEC meeting.
The intent was to try and reserve one of your TEC meetings so that you do not have other agenda items. You would open up your meeting and then have the agenda be just this discussion. And so it'd be as a workshop, basically, a kind of informal discussion with the members. But it'll still have to kind of work in a way where, kind of Robert's rules, where each person has a turn to speak. So it'll let everybody be together with the consultant during one of your regular meetings. That's the intent.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So we can't push everything to the June meeting, guys, so. Okay.
It's okay.
All right, so, where are they at in the agenda? Still on reports.
And we have to give a report.
All right, so, staff is done, so are there any member reports? Does anybody? Okay, well,
Want to start at one
start on it. Member Yount, do you have a report?
No report.
Okay. Member Fliss? Member Delgado, do you have a report? Okay.
You guys are too easy. I got a chance to speak before the Brevard County Commission last night. The Speak Up Brevard issue came up, and as a member of the Indian River Lagoon Roundtable, we had submitted a comment to try to address coordination and activities at a higher level than the county or NASA or Space Force, because they're all peers, you know. The land is in Brevard County, but it's owned or run by NASA, or it's run or managed by Space Florida or the Department of Defense. And all three of them specify that they're the ones that have figured out how they're going to use their land, how it's going to be divvied up amongst contractors, and where the development will be, and they'll need to have coordination or sign off from each other. So the Space Force says, we'll do whatever you want as long as you follow our policies and procedures to the letter. And Space Florida says, well, you do whatever you want as long as you follow our policies too. And there's no coordination going on. And when it comes to, just think about this. We've got a cruise terminal now that's focused on big ships. They're adding a sixth now. It's going to be just huge, right? So where are all the expendable, reusable rocket stages going to come in? Where are those barges going to dock? How many of those are going to come in? How many launches are we going to have a day? You know, what do we do when we start having 10 launches a day and we've got 10 ships coming back in? Where are they going to go? We don't have a place for it. We don't have coordination between who's heading out on a cruise ship and who's going up in a rocket and who's coming by in an airplane. Right? Now, when you add all of that, since we've moved to the cleaner coal of rocket fuel, methane, where are we going to store that? Because that can go boom when a big rocket goes boom. And we haven't talked about where we're going to be putting fuel storage or, anyway, my point is there are issues at a level above our government, above the county government, and through multiple agencies in the federal government and state government, because you've got FDEP in there and you've got the water management districts as well doing stormwater and, I can't get the word out, industrial wastewater, reverse order. Treated, quote unquote. Yeah, it fell on the ground, it's treated. So we have an issue that is about to envelop us like a tidal wave in this part of the country. We know that we've got some 50,000 homes that we are said or told that we're gonna have people moving in the next 10 years. I don't know where those houses are gonna be put. I don't know how we're gonna manage those, but that's the estimate. And that's just the start, because the next 10 years is probably gonna be an exponential growth factor on the first 10. So what we're going to see happen out here is going to be a huge amount of development, and I'm not just talking about, you know, the DoD or NASA or Space Florida. We're talking about all the ancillary corporate businesses that are going to be here to support all of that, because that's going to grow exponentially as well, which means we need more industrial land, we need more business land for commercial businesses that are going to be supporting all this industry. And right now, all we're thinking is housing, and nobody is coordinating at the top level. How much gets to go for the cruise terminal? Who's going to integrate? You know, we're all trying to sit on the same piece of land, and we've got competing interests at different entities. And so we wrote that up as a Speak Up Brevard, that the county should get involved to start initiating a cross-pollination, some kind of task force to figure out how we're going to grow, how we're going to develop some synergy between nature and space, right? We want to be able to survive our quality of life out here without it being subsumed by concrete and building in a haphazard way that doesn't take into account the cumulative impacts of each and every one of these, because it's not just an environmental assessment for a rocket, it's the infrastructure behind it that we have to support as well. I'll give you another example. We have a huge disaster out there, and there's hundreds of people that are injured. Guess who picks up the load? It's our local medical staff and hospitals in our county, right? It's not these companies that are wanting to build profits. And so there needs to be some kind of assessment and impact, understanding that when people move in, if they aren't building with LID, we have a real problem with them. It should be something that we should require in our own city going forward, but we're not there yet. So I wanted to just tell you that we had an opportunity in the county, and the county's, Kristen asked me, it sounds like you got accepted, and it says we did get accepted, but the answer was, we're gonna put it in our comprehensive planning process. So I asked them, how are you gonna get NASA to agree to your comprehensive plan, or the Department of Defense? They didn't understand the problem. And I want y'all to understand it so that when we talk to our city, they understand it, because this is gonna become huge. We will lose our beach access to Play Linda as this evolves. This is, and people have no clue that this is coming down the line. But it's alternative one right now in what's been proposed. So without any understanding by the population or any awareness, apparently, we're gonna be taken over and overridden, just like our parking lot, Parish Park. So that's all I have to say for my report. Oh, and I'm gonna be gone from June to October, so I need permission for that.
So, guess we need a motion for both member Yao and member Myjack to be excused for their usual summer,
That's not usually how that's done.
It's
Usually
not?
we request from city council.
Oh, okay.
Approved by them.
Okay.
Yeah, staff has to make.
Staff accepted city council, okay, good, all right, that's one less thing for us. So, I brought, Ms. Doherty mentioned tonight the 1999 plan of action for the commission, for the environmental commission, so I brought it. And, here's some copies for you guys. And, didn't I give you two? Or you need one, there's one for Lori, there's one for Abigail. I'm not making enough. I'll have to, oh. Is Lori's copy enough for you, for staff? So that they can both have one? Okay, good, all right. So that goes along with your, powers and duties homework. If you wanna see what the TEC was thinking back in 1999, and you will notice that there are some things on there that are gonna look really, really familiar, because they're the same things that we have been talking about. So, there you go. That you can add that to your homework. That's it for me. There's more than 18, I think, because I counted 40.
In the city?
I counted, if you look at this drainage map, there's 49 drainage areas. So are multiple drainage basins going into one outfall? Is that how it works? Okay, thank you, Victor. All right, so 18 outfalls.
Also, there was some question about the drainage from in and around Royal Oak Country Club on the south side. When I met with Kevin, he told me that there's a canal there, but there's a weir involved at Waseda, on the Waseda side. There are some homes that drain into it, but that then drains west, not east.
Waseda's draining west?
That canal on south of the Royal Oak Golf Course.
Yeah.
What is it, Knox McRae?
Yeah.
Actually runs west.
Wow.
Wow.
That I was surprised by.
Me too.
That's good, that it's going in the right direction towards the St. John's. So if the Knox McRae Canal can run west, why can't the rest of them run west?
Right.
Thank you.
Just like Lincoln.
Member Perez.
Okay, three things. So we're gonna try to bring some plans also from the garden club to the Chamber Forest.
Yay. Great.
Yeah,
We'll have a
hopefully,
forest around our
we're having a
table.
sale this Saturday, so hopefully we'll have some more food. But anyway.
You
First
don't
thing.
sell all of them?
Huh?
Hopefully you don't sell all of them?
We're trying hard. Okay, I'd like to, first make that motion to, have all our meetings live streamed and video recorded.
Seconded.
Right.
All right, so we have a motion made by Member Perez and seconded by Member Myjack to ask the City Council to, video record all of the TEC meetings and televise them, so that the public has an opportunity to see the great work that this commission does.
Does that also, include live streaming?
That's what I
I
said,
assume.
live stream, yeah, or
Okay.
televising, I guess that's the same thing as live stream.
The terminology is always,
Okay.
an issue, isn't it?
Okay, well, the live streaming could be on the internet too, so we want it televised, right?
Both.
Both, televised and live stream. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
The
the
next-
motion passes.
All right, the next item is, we've talked about this in the past, but we've never really, done anything about it, and that's, to have, the option to Zoom, or those that aren't here, to be able to Zoom to our meeting, while they're away, in order for this board to function. You know, I mean, that's a piece of functionality that in this day and age should be, you know, part of it.
I know that, for the Citizens Advisory, or, Council, for the Indian River Lagoon halfpenny sales tax, they do allow members to the meeting via Zoom. What we do is every meeting, somebody makes a motion at the beginning of the meeting to allow whatever member is on the Zoom to be able to vote. And then everybody says yes, and then that's how it's done. It would be really nice to be able to have Member Myjack and Member Young's input for the entire summer.
Well, I'm actually working.
Oh, you're actually working?
So it
Oh, okay.
would be impossible.
Okay, but it would be nice to have Member Myjack be included.
I would like that.
Is there a reason why we can't do Zoom meetings, Mr. Parrish?
The information, the response that I received has to do with, logistics, administrative time, and, state law. So, what is the technicalities that have to do that? Especially if there's a quasi-judicial item or a particular item that's gonna be discussed, or there's a vote's gonna be made, have to make sure that everybody receives the same, the evidence at the same time. Sometimes there's delay, where something might be presented here, we have to take it, scan it, and make sure it's emailed to all the members who are attending. The other issue is that sometimes it does take more staff members in order to administer that. So there is a cost involved. The other issue too is that I believe state law requires that you at least have a quorum here. This is something I have to check with our legal staff to see exactly how that works. But I just remember during COVID, we had that issue where we had to have 4 souls in the room, basically, or quorum in the room. And then the additional members could Zoom it when we were doing that, we were allowed to do that at the time. So the last time this was asked, the city council considered this request, a similar request about Zoom meetings. And on, let's see. Sorry, I was looking at your past motions. council approved. So back, I think in June last year, we had asked similar things. We'd asked for the meetings to be live broadcast and for Zoom meetings. Yeah, the council approved live broadcasting, but they didn't budget for it. So the way the city manager has handled it is by alternating between the Board of Adjustment and TEC each month. But they didn't approve the Zoom. Council did not support the request to utilize Zoom, mainly for the reasons I already described.
I think I'd like to bring it back again.
I'd like to second it.
Okay, and the reason being is that, I mean, I don't think those reasons really hold that much weight, and hopefully in a year's time, maybe things have evolved with the city council to the point where they will realize that this is something that's part of this, you know, century. I mean, this is the way we do work. I mean, I'm on at least 6 Zooms a week that have to do with my work.
Right.
There's no reason why, I mean, and it's done quickly, you set it up. I mean, there's not a whole lot about it. And as far as, you know, communication prior to, I mean, nowadays you can share screens, you can do all kinds of things. So, you know, I'd like to make that motion, and I believe it's been seconded.
All right, is there any further discussion? The motion was made by Member Perez and seconded by Member Fliss to allow, members who are not present to be able to participate in TEC meetings via Zoom.
Okay with that, Lord?
Okay, all right. Member
Again,
Delgado?
technology, guys, Zoom is a brand. Okay, there are Teams, there are other teleconferences, there are other media, and so, just so that we,
Such as Zoom.
just so we don't get caught up in the Zoom issue.
Okay, so I want
Okay,
modify,
teleconferencing.
yeah, teleconferencing instead of Zoom.
Right, because apparently, that's what happens, we're getting caught up in the name.
Video conferencing.
Okay, so.
You said telephone. Video.
All right, video conferencing.
Video conference.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Passes unanimously.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Anything else, Member Perez? Member Tucker? No report.
Okay. All right, so, well, we made it out before 9. We actually made it out before 8:30. We're doing good job, guys. So the meeting's adjourned.
Were there any additional discussion items? That's the last agenda item.
Anything else to put on the agenda for next time?
I think we have.
Well, Kristen had a couple of suggestions, I think.
We took care of one of them. Yeah. Tell us why you convened.
Performance measures.
All right, her second motion was that the city council be requested to request the city manager, Scott Reese, to provide an agenda item at a TEC meeting to review the city's fiscal year 2024 performance measures and targets that pertain to and or affect the TEC's purview and respond to questions regarding some. My personal opinion is that this would be something that it would be better to wait until after the April 30th, city council workshop and see what their priorities come out to be, and then we can look at this, but that's just my personal opinion. I'll see what you guys think.
I think that's a good idea. I think we should keep that piece of paper to consider after the 30th. Yeah, because otherwise, we
Want
might
to
be
put it
just
on the
spinning our
June
wheels.
meeting? And then you can always.
Oh, yeah, let's put,
That way,
I propose
it's in the queue.
I propose that we put it on the June meeting.
Yeah. I'll second that.
Okay.
Cool. On the June meeting? That's
June.
2 months.
May is full.
May's full already.
June could be the workshop.
Well, then if it's,
Then they'll just move it automatically to July. It'll move by itself.
It's gonna be October sometime. It's not going to.
Okay, so the motion was made by Member Fliss and seconded by Member Myjack, to put on the June meeting agenda, a discussion about, requesting the city manager to come to the TEC meeting to talk about performance measures and targets.
For 2024. That was a very good one.
Okay, to review the city's fiscal year 2024 performance measures. By the time we get to it, the year's gonna be almost.
That's right, so let's ready to vote now.
But the idea of it is that is getting involved and letting them know, you know, hey, we're not as, we would like to do less than, you know, pushed in the back on everything.
Right.
Okay.
We're squeaky wheeling it.
Alright. Okay.
We need your master
Boy, are you okay with that? Thank you, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Now, I think we're done now.
Now we can
Mr.
adjourn.
Parrish. And it's still 9:30. All right, you guys have a good month. We'll see you at the Enchanted Forest.
Yes, that's